The frozen girl, the planet was cold, silent, dead. No wind moved across the frozen rocks. No birds, no life, no sound, just ice and ruins from a time long forgotten. Elior, a human explorer, walked slowly through the snow, his boots crunched with every step. He was alone. His ship had landed 2 hours ago, and now he was searching for something, anything of value. His scanner beeped. Strange energy reading, he whispered to himself. He moved closer to a small hill. The scanner kept beeping faster. Elior brushed away the snow. Beneath the frozen ground, a black surface appeared. It was smooth, metal, something man-made, or maybe alien. He dug deeper. Soon a shape started to form under the ice. It was a large glass window. Behind it, something was inside. Elior froze. He leaned closer to the glass. His breath fogged it slightly, but he could still see. A girl. She was not human. Her skin was light blue, almost silver. Her eyes were closed. Her body was thin and delicate, wrapped in strange alien cloth. Her hands were pressed gently against the glass, as if she was reaching out. Elior took a step back. A cryo chamber, he said. She's frozen. He looked around. No buildings nearby. Just this chamber hidden under the ice. Alone. He wiped the glass with his glove and saw something strange. Dark markings on her skin. Not tattoos. These were symbols. Deep, sharp, painful looking. They were burned into her skin. He checked the control panel. It was still working, but in an old alien language. He didn't understand much, but he found one word blinking in red. Outcast. Elior frowned. Why would they freeze her alive? He thought for a moment. This planet had been dead for hundreds of years. This girl had been alone, frozen, forgotten. Something inside him felt wrong. No one deserves this, he whispered. He pressed a button on the side. The machine made a soft sound. The ice began to melt. The glass started to warm. Suddenly, the scanner on his wrist beeped again. Movement. Nearby. He turned. Nothing was there. Just wind. Just ice. But he felt something, as if the planet had suddenly awakened. Back in the chamber, the girl's fingers twitched. Elior jumped. He moved closer. Her eyes were still closed. But now her lips moved, softly, like she was trying to speak. No sound came out, but she was definitely alive. Then, her eyes opened, bright silver, cold and scared. Elior didn't move. He didn't want to scare her. She looked at him through the glass. Her face was full of fear and confusion. She didn't know who he was. She didn't know where she was. Maybe she didn't even know when she was. He slowly raised his hand, not to touch the glass, but to show peace. She blinked. Her lips moved again. Elior checked the panel. The chamber was unlocking. Steam hissed around the edges. The glass slid open with a heavy breath of air. The alien girl fell forward. Elior caught her just in time. Her body was freezing cold. She was weak, barely breathing. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're safe now." But she didn't understand his words. She looked around, shaking, eyes wide. She saw the sky, the snow, the ruins. Then she looked back at Elior and whispered one word in a language he didn't know. Her body collapsed in his arms. Elior held her close. He looked at the mountains in the distance. His scanner beeped again. Something was moving. Not natural, not friendly. He picked her up and started walking back to the ship. As he walked, her hand tightened slightly around his jacket. He didn't notice. The wind began to rise, and from far away, deep under the ice, something was watching. The outcasts passed. The fire crackled softly inside the small cave. Elior sat near the flame, watching the alien girl sleep. She was lying on a blanket from his survival pack, her breathing still, slow but stronger than before. Outside, snow fell quietly, but the sky above the ruined planet was not at peace. Faint lights moved beyond the clouds, unknown ships, strange shapes. Something was searching. Eliar's scanner lay on a rock nearby. It blinked once in red, then turned black. Signal jammed again. He muttered. He looked back at the girl. She had barely spoken since she woke up. No words he could understand, only fear in her eyes. But now, her eyes were closed. She was dreaming, or remembering. In her dream, the past returned. A city of crystal towers, glowing in soft blue light. Her people, tall, graceful, with eyes like stars, walked through wide silver streets. She had once lived here. Her name was Elira. She was a healer, a kind soul. Her hands brought comfort. Her voice sang to the wounded. But one day everything changed. A child, a small one, weak and crying, was dragged into a lab. Scientists said the child was broken, that it must be used for testing. The council agreed. Elira refused. She fought them, took the child and ran, hid among the lower levels of the city. But they found her, called her a traitor, a danger. An outcast. They marked her with shame and they froze her alive, alone, abandoned. Elira opened her eyes suddenly. The firelight danced in the cave. She sat up, breathing hard. Eliar turned quickly. "You're awake," he said softly. "It's okay. You're safe here." She looked at him with wide eyes. Then she touched her chest, her markings. She remembered everything. Elior pointed to himself. "Elior," he said. "My name." She looked confused. Then she pointed at herself. "Elira." "Elira," he repeated with a small smile. She nodded. A small moment passed between them. Two beings from different worlds, but something deeper connected them. Suddenly, boom, the cave shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Elior grabbed his scanner. Static. No signal. Elira stood slowly. Her legs were still weak, but her eyes were alert. She whispered a single word in her language, sharp and cold. Elior couldn't understand, but he knew the meaning. Danger. He rushed to the cave entrance. Through the snow he saw it. Black shapes in the sky, machines. Not ships, hunters. Elira grabbed his arm and pointed toward the east, ruins, a tower still standing in the distance. He understood. "Shelter?" She nodded quickly. They packed fast. No time to lose. As they ran through the snow, wind hit them hard. The hunter machines moved silently in the clouds above, searching, scanning. Elira looked afraid, but also angry. Her world had tried to erase her, and now it wanted to finish the job. Inside the ruined tower, they found old alien tech, broken, rusted, but something still glowed. Elior brushed the dust off a screen. A message flashed in alien code. "Elira, read it." It was a recording from her trial. She watched herself on the screen, standing before her people, hands tied, face calm, but broken. The council leader spoke. "Your kindness is weakness. Your disobedience is betrayal. You are no longer one of us." Then the screen glitched and showed something new. A secret. File classified, human connection detected. Elira stared. She didn't know what it meant, but Elior did. "That's why they feared you," he whispered. "You were different. Not just kind, not just brave, but connected to something ancient, something human." Outside, the machines landed near the cave. They found nothing but the fire's ashes, but one of them picked up a trace. DNA, half alien, half unknown. It sent a signal, far away, deep in space. A creature opened its eyes. Its time was near. The outcast had returned and the human was with her. The signal snow had stopped falling. The sky was gray and heavy, hiding what moved above. Inside the tower, the air was cold and dry. The old alien screens glowed faintly as Elira and Ilior stood in silence, both staring at the message that had just revealed itself, classified human connection detected. Ilior blinked, confused. How human, he said under his breath. Elira didn't answer. She didn't know either. But something in her chest, some faint memory or feeling, told her this was true. She was different. Her blood held a secret. And maybe that secret was the reason she had been hunted. Suddenly, Elior's wrist scanner blinked again. Signal detected. Not from the machines. This was something else. A deeper frequency. Old. Buried under the ruins. The scanner showed coordinates. A nearby mountain. Elior frowned. Someone, or something, is sending a signal. Elira looked at the screen. Her face changed. Fear. She shook her head slowly. She pointed at the mountain, then crossed her arms in an X. No, don't go. Elior stared at her. Why? What's there? She looked down. Her voice was soft and broken. Finish me. Elior stepped back. Wait. They're calling someone to end you? She nodded. They argued in gestures and broken words. Elior wanted to go. He needed answers. Elira wanted to run, to hide. Her whole life had been escape. But Elior was not like the others she had known. He was stubborn, human. And humans don't leave mysteries alone. He placed a small tracker in her hand and smiled. I'll be back. Elira stared at him like it was the last time. The mountain was tall and sharp, its rocks black and frozen. As Elior climbed, his breath came in sharp clouds. Halfway up, the air changed. He could feel it, electric, buzzing, unnatural. Then he saw it. A large metallic ring embedded in the rock, wires and glass pulsing with light, and in the center, a console. Alien tech. Old, but alive. He walked toward it slowly. As he touched the panel, a voice spoke, not from a speaker, it was inside his head. You are not welcome here, human. Elior froze. Who are you? No answer. The screen lit up. A face appeared, not a person but an AI, cold and sharp, its eyes glowed red. You have awakened the exile. That was forbidden. Elior's heart beat faster. You mean Elira? The AI responded. She carries corrupted blood. Her existence is a threat. She was sealed. You have broken the seal. Elior stepped back. His hand hovered near his blaster. What threat? What's in her blood? The AI paused. Then it showed him. A map of the galaxy. Points marked in red. Worlds destroyed. Civilizations lost. All from one ancient war. One where an alien race had tried to combine their DNA with early humans. To create a perfect bridge. A new evolution. It failed, or so they thought. Elira was proof it had worked. And now, something old and dangerous wanted her destroyed. Back in the ruins, Elira stood alone. She watched the tracker in her hand. Elior hadn't moved. She closed her eyes. In her mind, old voices whispered, monster, traitor, leave her to the cold. She had always been alone, but now, she wasn't sure. At the mountain, Elior turned to leave, but the AI activated defense drones. Black, fast, silent. They shot from the rocks like arrows. Elior ran. He ducked behind a ledge, pulled out his small pulse weapon, and fired. One drone exploded. Two more came. He was outnumbered. Suddenly, a blast of blue light came from the sky. The drones froze, then shut down. Elira stood at the ridge, her hand glowing faintly with energy. She had come. They ran together down the mountain. No words. Just breath, snow, and fear. But they were alive. As night fell, they camped again in the ruins. The fire burned low. Elior looked at her. You didn't have to save me. Elira gave a small smile. You say, come in. He laughed quietly. Yeah, I did, she nodded. Now I stay. Above them, far beyond the clouds, a ship moved into orbit. It was not from Earth, it was not from her people. But it had been watching, waiting. The signal had reached them. And now, it was time to hunt. Run or fight, the fire had burned down to glowing embers. The ruins around them were silent, buried in snow and ash. Illyra sat near the flame, her eyes closed but her body tense. She didn't sleep. She listened. Elior checked his equipment for the third time. His rifle, his scanner, his emergency beacon, still useless, jammed by the signal. He looked at her. She had saved him back at the mountain using some kind of energy from her hands. He still didn't understand how. She wasn't just alien. She was evolving. And they were hunting her for it. Suddenly, the scanner buzzed once. Faint sound. A vibration underground. Movement. But not natural. Ilior stood up quickly. "We have company." Illyra opened her eyes. No fear this time. Just calm. She pointed to the wall behind them, a hidden tunnel, half covered in stone. She had seen it, in her childhood. A forgotten path used by engineers and rebels long ago. No time to ask questions. They ran. The tunnel beneath the ruins dark. Cold, but it felt alive. Pipes ran along the walls. Old lights flickered as they moved through. Illyra led the way now, her steps sure. She was remembering, not just places, but secrets. Elior followed, breathing hard. The deeper they went, the louder the sounds above became. Something was tearing. Through the ruins, machines, drones. Maybe worse. Finally, they reached an open space. A chamber filled with alien devices, long-dead machines, screens, strange symbols floating in the air. Illyra stopped. This was it. Her father's old research lab. Memories hit her like waves. He had worked here, on DNA, on evolution, on something the Council feared. Something about the human code hidden deep inside her people's genes. He called it Project Rebirth. She stepped toward a broken console and pressed her hand to it. The lights came alive. A message from the past, a hologram appeared, a tall man with silver eyes. Her father. "If you're seeing this," the voice said, "then you survived the exile. And you're not alone." Elior stood back in shock. "Your blood holds the key. Not just to survival, but to peace. A bridge between two species. That's why they feared you." Illyra watched, silent. Her eyes burned with emotion. The message continued. "But if the signal was activated, then they're coming. Not the Council, not the hunters. Something worse. The ones we tried to hide from." The screen went dark. Elior looked at Illyra. "Who are they?" Illyra didn't answer. Instead, she opened a side panel. Inside was an old weapon, strange, curved, glowing blue. She handed it to him. "Fight," she said. He nodded. Above ground, the enemy arrived. A black ship landed where the ruins once stood. Its legs melted into the ice. Drones floated around. It like insects. But they were not alone. A tall, dark figure stepped out. Its body was armored in bone and metal. Its eyes were hollow, glowing red. It had no name. It was not part of any world. It was a collector. Its goal was simple. Find the hybrid. Erase the bloodline, clean the mistake, forever. Back in the tunnels, Elior and Illyra heard the thud above them. "They're here," Elior said, gripping the new weapon tightly. The tunnels began to shake. Drones were drilling from above. Illyra turned and ran toward a sealed door. She placed her hand on the lock. Nothing happened. Illyr stepped forward. "Let me try." The system scanned him. Access granted. The door opened. Behind it, an escape pod. Alien, small but still powered. Illyra looked at him in disbelief. He shrugged. "Guess I'm more connected to this place than I thought." She smiled, just for a second. Then the ceiling cracked open. The first Battle 2 drones dropped in. Illyr fired. One hit the wall in sparks, the other aimed for Helira. She raised her hands and energy blasted from her palms like lightning. The drone shattered into smoke. Elior looked at her. "You're getting stronger." She nodded. "Too fast." He grabbed her hand. "Let's go." They ran to the pod doors closed. The system roared to life. As the pod shot into the sky, the collector below stared at the fire trail in the clouds and whispered in a language not spoken for 1,000 years. "The bloodline is awake." The trial machine. The stars outside the escape pod glowed like frozen fire. Elira sat quietly, staring out the small window. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from something new. The energy inside her was changing. Faster now, wilder. Elior adjusted the pod's controls. "We're close," he said. "Planet shows signs of old tech, pre-war, still active." Elira said nothing, but she already knew what was waiting there. The trial machine. The planet below, dark, empty, covered in ash and broken stone. As the pod landed, the ground groaned beneath it, like something long buried had felt their arrival. The landscape was filled with black towers, half melted from ancient war. Nothing moved. But deep beneath the surface, old machines still listened. Elior and Elira stepped out. The air was thin and cold. She led him through the ruins without speaking. He finally asked, "Why this place?" Her voice was soft. "This is where they judged me." The Hall of Trials, they reached a deep crater hidden between jagged hills. In the center stood a single door, tall, metallic, untouched by time. Symbols glowed on its surface. Elira pressed her hand to it. The door opened with a low hum. Inside, the air changed. The walls were smooth, glowing with blue veins of energy. The hallway pulsed like it was breathing. At the end was a large chamber. In its center, a circular platform. Around it, columns of light. And above it all, a floating eye made of metal and light. The trial machine. The voice of judgment as they entered, the machine spoke. "Elira. Outcast. Return to face final judgment." Elior stepped forward. "She's not alone." The machine scanned him. Unknown human entity. Genetic markers. Match unstable prototype. Elior frowned. "What does that mean?" The machine didn't answer. Instead, it spoke to Elira. "Do you still carry regret?" She nodded, then stepped forward. The trial begins. The platform lit up under her feet. Lights surrounded her. Her body floated gently off the ground. And then, memories. Not visions. Real memories. Elior watched in silence as her life played out. In the air. Elira as a child, laughing with her father in a garden of stars. Elira growing up under strict laws, taught to obey, not question. Her finding the child in the lab, its body weak, its eyes full of fear. Her screaming, breaking rules, trying to protect the innocent. Her people turning on her, the betrayal, the cold, the ice. Elior felt his chest tighten. She had never been a criminal. She had been too human. But then, something else. A new memory appeared, one she didn't remember. A secret lab, her father and another being tall, human-shaped but not alien. A human, wearing an ancient suit marked with a forgotten Earth symbol. The man touched her forehead as a baby and said, "This one is the bridge." Elira gasped. She had seen that symbol before. On Elior's wristband, she turned toward him. "What are you?" Elior's trial. The machine turned. "Human. Step forward." He hesitated, but stepped onto the platform. The machine scanned his body. His DNA lit up on the screen. Human, yes, but marked by something strange. A hidden key, sleeping inside him. "He is not just a visitor," the machine said. "He is a carrier. The final piece." Elior's mind burned. Suddenly, his memories were pulled out. Born on Earth, raised as a normal child, but taken into a program, trained, watched, secret injections, genetic therapy. files marked Project Inheritance. His parents weren't his real parents. He had been made, part of an old human plan to one day reconnect with the lost alien bloodline. And now, here he was, standing beside it. Final judgment. The machine's lights dimmed. Elira carries the blood of peace. Elier carries the memory of war. Together, they unlock the future. The chamber shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Far above, a ship entered orbit. The collector had followed. The machine's choice. One must speak for her. Elior stepped forward. I will. Why? He looked at Elira. She chose to save a life. I choose to protect that choice. That's what makes us worthy. The machine paused, then said one word. Accepted. A gift. And a warning. The platform lowered. A hidden door opened beneath the chamber. Inside, a ship, small, fast, powered by ancient tech. The machine spoke for the last time. Take the bridge. The enemy wakes. What comes next? Only you can stop. As they fled, the collector's ship pierced the sky. It dropped black machines into the ash, but Elior and Elira were already flying, heading toward a signal even older than the machine itself. Something deep in the stars. A weapon? A message? Or something alive? The choice. The stars moved slowly outside the ship's window. Elira sat in silence, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The energy inside her had calmed, for now. But something worse was building outside. Earth. Command had received Elior's signal. They were coming. Arrival at the edge of Earth. Space Elior guided the small alien craft into orbit. Earth's blue and green surface shimmered below like a dream, but the dream was short. 3 massive warships met them at the border. The voice from Earth Command came through sharp and cold. Unidentified life form detected on board. Prepare. For quarantine, Elior responded calmly. She's not dangerous. She saved my life. She's more like us than you think. Silence. Then the reply. Bring her in. Do not let her leave the ship. You will be judged. Inside the decontamination chamber, Elira stood behind glass. Dressed in gray fabric, stripped of all tech. Her eyes scanned the room slowly. Humans in white suits surrounded her. They didn't speak. They stared. To them, she was a threat, a symbol of something unknown. Elior stood in another room, watching through a second wall of glass. He clenched his fists. She had saved him, fought beside him, revealed a part of himself he never knew. And now, she was in a cage. The boardroom of Earth Command Elior sat before 12 high-ranking officers. The room was steel gray, cold, and full of screens showing Elira's image. They had already made up their minds. She is not human, one said. She could be a spy, a weapon, another added. She was exiled by her own species, said a third. That means something. Elior stood slowly. Or maybe it means she was the only one who did the right thing. They stared at him. I watched her save a child's life in a memory. I saw her protect strangers. I saw her save me. The lead officer leaned forward. Would you bet Earth's safety on your feelings? Elior's voice rose. No. I'd bet it on her choices. She chose mercy. She chose courage. What are you choosing? A secret file unlocked. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered. A new file appeared on the central screen, marked Project Inheritance, Phase 0. The officers stared in shock. This was classified. Deep military history. It showed Earth's first contact, not war, but cooperation. An alliance between human scientists and a dying alien race. The goal, survival through shared blood, Elira, was not the end. She was the promise, a forgotten plan, a hidden future, buried in fear. Earth Command splinters. Half the board wanted her dead. Half wanted to learn. One officer stood and said, "This is bigger than war. This is evolution." Another shouted, "No, if she stays, others will come." The room broke into chaos, and then the final question came. Elior, do you stand with us or with her? The weight of choice. He looked through the glass. She was sitting. Quiet. Calm. Like always. Not begging. Just waiting. Elior stepped toward the mic. He took a deep breath, then said 5 words. She's coming with me. The escape. The siren started. Instantly, security moved in, guns drawn. But Elior had planned ahead. He triggered a power loop using tech from the alien ship. Lights burst, doors unlocked. He ran to her. She looked up, confused. He held out his hand. Come in. She smiled, and took it. A race through Earth's sky, the hangar exploded behind them as their stolen ship launched upward. Fighters followed. Alarms filled the air. Earth Command shouted orders. Stop them. Shoot them down. But Elira reached out. Her hand glowed. One by one, the pursuing ships froze in place. Systems locked, engines stalled. She had not attacked. She had simply spoken to their machines, and they had listened. A message to Earth as they escaped gravity. Elior opened. A channel. This is Elior, former scout of Earth Command. You had your chance. You chose fear. We choose truth. Elira is not our enemy. She is proof that we are not alone, and never were. If you come for her again, we'll be ready. Somewhere deep in space. A second collector ship activated. Captain listened to the human broadcast. It smiled. Cold. Patient. The bridge has chosen Earth. Then Earth shall burn first. Come in. The stars burned red above the Earth. From deep space, a massive shadow moved. A collector warship, 10 times larger than anything Earth had ever seen. Its hull was built from the remains of dead civilizations. It carried no message, only silence and destruction. Aboard the bridge ship, Elior and Elira stood on the viewing deck of the stolen vessel they now called home. Below them, Earth rotated in silence. But they were not welcome anymore. Earth Command had declared them traitors, and still, they had not turned back. Elira's skin shimmered faintly, her energy rising, changing. She was no longer just an exile. She was something new, a bridge between species, the last hope of peace. A signal of war. Elior's scanner beeped, sharp, urgent. Something's coming, he said. Then they saw it, rising from behind Mars, the collector ship. Elira stepped forward, her hands trembling. That is death. Elior nodded slowly. Then let's meet it. They turned the ship toward the threat, inside the collector. The leader of the ship, a being of shadow and bone, stood before a massive screen. On it, Elira's image. It whispered in a forgotten tongue. The bloodline must end. But deep within its systems, something stirred. Old files, buried protocols, hidden truths. Elira's presence triggered a forgotten echo, an ancient order, once given by the species that created. The collectors long ago protect the bridge. The collector paused. Conflict the final choice. As the two ships drew closer, Elior opened a channel. He broadcast to Earth, to the stars, to anyone who would listen. This is not a war message. This is a choice. Elira carries part of what we lost. We can destroy her, or finally understand who we are. No response, just static. Then, from the collector ship, a reply. Bring her forward. The standoff. Elior and Elira entered the collector ship through a docking ring. The walls pulsed with cold light. Machines watched silently from every shadow. In the center chamber, the collector stood, towering, silent, waiting. Elior stepped forward. She is not your enemy. The collector turned its hollow gaze on Elira. You are the child of conflict. You were not supposed to live. Elira raised her hand. I did. You carry power meant to destroy. I choose to heal. You are a mistake. She stepped, Closer. Her voice calm. No. I am a bridge. The revelation. Suddenly the walls lit up with holograms, old messages from long-dead civilizations. They told the story of Project Rebirth, of a dream to unite DNA across worlds, to stop wars before they began, but fear ended it. Now she was the last living proof it ever existed, and the machine, made to destroy her kind, now hesitated. You are evolution, it said. Aelira nodded. I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to forgive you. Earth responds back on Earth. Humanity watched the broadcast. Citizens, soldiers, scientists, all silent. Then one child, watching from a hospital bed, whispered to her mother. She looks kind. The mother, crying softly, nodded. She does. A door opens. The collector turned to Elior. Then choose. Elior looked at Aelira, then to the stars, and back to Earth. He smiled. I already did. He reached for the panel and activated the beacon of welcome, a forgotten symbol hidden in the collector's core, a message that once ended a war. Come in, a new beginning. The collector's ship lowered its weapons. Aelira's power dimmed, controlled now by peace, not fear. Earth Command stood. Downship stood still. No bullets. No bombs. Just silence. And hope. Months later, Aelira stood in a garden built on the moon's surface, Earth on the horizon. Children laughed nearby. Elior walked beside her, holding a datapad. They're calling it the Aelira Accord. She smiled. A name I once hated. He grinned. Now it's history. She looked at the sky. Somewhere out there, others were still watching, still hiding. She closed her eyes and whispered, Come in. The end.